அன்னமயமென்னும் கோஷம் தனிலே அந்தணர் முதல் புலையர் வரைக்கும் பின்னமரவே தோடுதே அன்றி பேதம் ஒன்றும் காணேன். அன்னமயமென்னும் கோஷம் தனிலே அந்தணர் முதல் புலையர் வரைக்கும் பின்னமரவே தோணுதே அன்றி பேதம் ஒன்றும் காணேன். தன்னை அறிகின்ற தவமே பெரிதென்று தரணியில் கோபால கிருஷ்ணா சொன்னரெல்லாம் மறதையோத சொன்னரெல்லாம் மறதையோத மாய சூழலிலே விழுந்ததலை நடை.
Hello and welcome back to Raaga Rasika. This is a podcast program that explores the world of Carnatic music. Joining me from Albany, New York is Vidya Subramanian. Over the course of our conversation on Carnatic music, we have featured a few composers so far. We have talked about Sri Purandaradasa from Karnataka and Sri Annamacharya from Andhra Pradesh. Both these composers are considered to belong in the pre-Trinity period of Carnatic music. Today we'd like to talk about another composer from the state of Tamil Nadu, Sri Oothukadu Venkatakavi. But before we do that, let's discuss first about this concept of Trinity and the pre-Trinity era.
Certainly. The Trinity of Carnatic music is basically the three prolific composers who lived between 1762 and 1847. The three composers are Saint Tyagaraja, Sri Muthuswami Dikshitar and Sri Shyama Shastri. These three prolific composers have contributed immensely to Carnatic music as we know it today. And if you look at the compositions that are most frequently rendered in the concert platform today, we would find that a majority of them are compositions by the Trinity, and the Trinity compositions have enriched the repertoire of Carnatic music like no other composers' compositions have. And when we look at the time period in which these three composers lived, Saint Tyagaraja is believed to have lived between 1767 until 1847. Muthuswami Dikshitar's period is estimated at 1775 through 1835, and Shyama Shastri is believed to have lived between 1762 until 1827. So when we say that somebody was a pre-Trinity composer, it is somebody that lived roughly before the times of the Trinity.
Vidya, so before we move on to Oothukadu and his compositions, could you share a few thoughts on the importance of the Trinity and their contribution to Carnatic music, and why they represent such a huge break in the Carnatic music tradition that composers are classified in pre-Trinity and the Trinity era?
When I think about what makes the Trinity so special and so different from the composers that preceded as well as succeeded them, there are several points that come to my mind, and I will try to enlist some of them. The first one is that the wealth of the compositions that the Trinity created is really unsurpassed, I would say. They composed in major ragams. When I say major ragams, let me give some examples like Todi, Bhairavi, Kalyani, Shankarabharanam. And these compositions really form the backbone on which we structure the improvisation in concerts. So these are really nuggets which have added to the different dimensions of these major ragams. Secondly, the Trinity also composed in relatively new and minor ragams. when I say minor ragams, some examples that come into mind are Nalina Kanti, Bindu Malini, and so on. These are ragams that were relatively unexplored before their times. So that was another contribution. Thirdly, each of the Trinity had their own unique strengths in their musical expertise as well as their compositional styles, which have been unmatched by other composers. And these have really helped to add to the depth and breadth of Carnatic music. And another very important point to note is that the Trinity had the unique Sishya Paramparas, or lineage of disciples, that basically handed down their compositions more or less intact to the subsequent generations. When we look at some of the pre-Trinity composers like Purandaradasa or Annamacharya, we find that the original tunes have been more or less lost over time. This is something that is very different from the Trinity, whose compositions have been preserved to a large measure. Although, some of them have been changed over the centuries, a majority of them have been handed down more or less intact. And that really has helped set them apart. And also, if you attend any concert today, you would find that the Trinity compositions really form the backbone, not only in terms of the number of compositions that get included in the concert itself, but also how an artist structures his or her improvisation, whether it be Raga Alapana or Kalpana Swarams or Neraval or any of the improvisational aspects.
Based on what you shared with us, Vidya, I think it is fair to say that the Trinities really took this Carnatic music art form to a completely new level, be it from a standpoint of popularizing Carnatic music amongst the general public, or composing numerous new songs and ensuring that this art form is learnt by establishing a strong lineage across several generations.
Absolutely. And there's one more point that I would like to add at this juncture. If you recall, in the episode on Purandaradasa, we were discussing how his most significant contribution was to help structure Carnatic music so that it could be learnt by all. And when we also look at the Trinity compositions, especially those of Tyagaraja and Muthuswami Dikshitar, there is something in them for every student of music, irrespective of the level of the student. If you take Tyagaraja, for instance, he has composed very simple compositions like Gatamoha or Raminchuva Reverura, which are suitable for a beginner level learner, as well as, highly sophisticated compositions like Nagumomu Ganaleni or the Pancharatna Kritis, which are more suitable for highly advanced level learners. And I think that in itself is a very significant contribution by the Trinity.
Clearly, the work that has been done by each of these Trinity composers deserves a series of episodes by themselves, which we will certainly endeavor to do in the future. For now, coming back to Oothukadu, tell us a little bit about Oothukadu and his life, Vidya.
Absolutely. Oothukadu Venkatakavi was born in the state of Tamil Nadu sometime around the year 1700. Unfortunately, we do not seem to have exact records of the date of his birth. His parents were Kamala Narayani and Ramachandra Vatula, and they named him Venkata Subramanian. Oothukadu Venkatakavi, as he is popularly known today, was born in the South Indian town of Mannargudi, but he spent a significant portion of his life in the neighboring village of Oothukadu, and that is how he is known as Oothukadu Venkata Subbayar today. And in fact, his compositions are popularly known as Oothukadu compositions. And this town of Oothukadu is located near the city of Kumbakonam in Tamil Nadu.
So, Vidya, when we were talking about Purandaradasa and Annamacharya, we mentioned that Purandaradasa has composed several songs in the praise of Lord Vittala or Lord Krishna, and Annamacharya has composed numerous songs praising Lord Venkateshwara of Tirupati. I'm sure there is a similar example here in Oothukadu as well, right?
Absolutely. When we study the compositions of Oothukadu Venkatakavi, we find that many of them are on Lord Krishna, and this is believed to be due to the fact that he spent a majority of his years in the town of Oothukadu, and he was a great devotee of the Kalinga Nartana Krishna, that is the dancing form of Lord Krishna. It is also important to note that he has composed a significant number of compositions on other deities as well. And in fact, if we look for a signature term or a mudra in his compositions, like we discussed earlier, in Purandaradasa compositions, we find the word Purandara Vitala. In Oothukadu Venkatakavi's compositions, he has employed the word Kalinga Nartana or Kalinga Natana in many of his compositions, not all of them, but in many. He has also used his own name. He says Venkatakavi in a few of the compositions.
Interesting. So, Vidya, now let's transition to his compositions. I'm sure there are several aspects of his compositions from a pure Carnatic music technical sense, and which we will cover in a subsequent episode. But for now, let's talk about his compositions, some of his popular ones, and so on.
There are many compositions, especially on Lord Krishna, which are extremely popular. In fact, many of them are grouped together and are popularly known as Krishna Ganam, or songs on Lord Krishna. Some of them that the listeners might have come across are Taye Yashoda in the Ragam Todi. There is Alai Payude, which is an extremely popular piece in the Ragam Kannada. Let me sing the first couple of lines of this composition for our listeners today. Alai Payude Kanna, Alai Payude Kanna, Yen Manam Alai Payude, Unnananda Mohana Venugana Madil Alai Payude Kanna, Yen Manam Alai Payude, Unnananda Mohana Venugana Madil Alai Payude. In this composition, Sri Venkatakavi describes how the melodious music that comes out of Krishna's flute makes his heart wander. Another extremely popular piece is Adadu Asangadu Va in the Ragam Madhyamavati. The lyrics of this song are very interesting in the sense that Oothukadu Venkatakavi actually asks Krishna to stop dancing, and in a very jestful and loving manner, he lists a number of reasons as to why he thinks the Lord should stop dancing. Some of the reasons he gives are that the dance of Krishna makes Lord Shiva stop his own dance in order to come and observe Krishna's dance. And he says that the dance is so beautiful that several sages and holy men actually start casting an evil eye on the Lord. So it's a very interesting composition, and it brings out the lyrical as well as melodic genius of Sri Venkatakavi. Let me again sing the Pallavi for our listeners. Adadu Asangadu Va, Adadu Asangadu Va Kanna, Adadu Asangadu Va Kanna, உன்னாடலில் ஈரழு புவனமும் அசைந்து அசைந்தாடுதே, எனவே ஆடாது அசங்காது வா கண்ணா. உன்னாடலில் ஈரழு புவனமும் அசைந்து அசைந்தாடுதே, எனவே ஆடாது அசங்காது வா கண்ணா. A few other extremely popular compositions are Palvadiyum Mugam in the Ragam Nattakurunji, Ananda Nardana Ganapatim in the Ragam Nattai. There is also Asaindadu Mayil Ondru in the Ragam Simendra Madhyamam, among others.
Vidya, as you've mentioned, some of those are extremely popular. And in fact, I remember listening to several of those when I've attended concerts. But Oothukadu has many more compositions to his credit beyond those very popular ones, right?
Certainly. Until recently, the common perception was that most of the Oothukadu compositions were lighter pieces on Lord Krishna, but recently it has been unearthed that he was an exemplary composer who very prolifically and capably handled hundreds of ragas, many of them for the first time in Carnatic music. He has composed not only in major ragas like Todi, Shankarabharanam, Kalyani, Kamboji, and Bhairavi, as well as extremely melodious ragas such as Sahana, Ananda Bhairavi, Shuruti, Madhyamavati, and so on. He has also composed in relatively rare ragams such as Umabharanam, Hamsanadam, Malavi, Jayantashri, Kannada Gaula, Malaya Marutam, Navarasa Kannada, and so on. And some of his compositions in ragas like Kannada Maruvam, Hamsa Girvani, Lalita Gandharvam, and Deeparam are unparalleled in the sense that we don't seem to have compositions in those ragams by any other of the major composers. Not only that, his expertise in the rhythmic front or tala also seems to have been of an extremely high caliber, and he has composed compositions in rare talas as well. He has also ventured into several compositional forms such as the Kriti, which is a composition format we talked about in one of the earlier episodes, the Tilana, which is again a fast-paced composition format that we mentioned earlier. He has also ventured into other compositional formats, including shloka or devotional verses, Kavadi Chindu, which is a folkish form of composition, as well as Javali, which is yet another compositional format.
Vidya, when you think about the Trinity and when we think about Tyagaraja, we normally talk about Pancharatna Kritis and things like that are associated with Tyagaraja. Has Oothukadu composed similar group compositions?
Sri Oothukadu Venkatakavi has composed a number of compositions which are fairly similar in format to the popular Pancharatna Kritis of Tyagaraja, and 7 of these compositions have been grouped together and called as the Saptaratna Kritis, and these are becoming extremely popular. He has also composed Navavarna Kritis on Kamakshi, and composing the Navavarna Kritis really involves detailed study of Devi worship or worship of the mother goddess, and some of the listeners might be familiar with the Kamalamba Navavarna Kritis of Muthuswami Dikshitar, which are also masterpieces on the mother goddess. And his mastery over Sanskrit and Tamil languages was really extraordinary. He has also composed on several other deities, out of which a number of kritis on Lord Anjaneya or Lord Hanuman, who was a great devotee of Lord Rama, have been grouped together to form the Anjaneya Pancharatnam, or the 5 gems on Lord Anjaneya.
Vidya, if I were to go and read up and listen to Oothukadu compositions, who are some of the musicians I should be tracking? Who are the people that are popularizing Sri Oothukadu's compositions?
Among the past masters, if you listen to recordings of Sangeeta Kalanidhis, Sri Madurai Mani Iyer, Sri K.V. Narayana Swami, and Maharajapuram Sri Santanam, chances are you would hear a number of Oothukadu compositions among their renditions. Sri Needamangalam Krishnamurti Bhagavatar is credited with bringing out several unknown compositions of Oothukadu Venkatakavi. Among contemporary musicians, Chitraveena maestro Sri Ravi Kiran has been doing a lot of work in order to popularize several of Oothukadu compositions, and he has published a very interesting and informative book called The Life and Contributions of Oothukadu Venkatakavi. Some other contemporary musicians whose renditions are extremely popular are Sri Madurai T.N. Seshagopalan and Srimati Aruna Sairam.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Vidya, for that summary. For now, that's all the time we have. Hope to see you next time, where we talk a little more about Oothukadu's composition and his technical expertise. Join us at www.raagarasika.com To learn more about Vidya, visit her online at vidyasubramanian.com. Thank you and goodbye.
Sachidananda Vallisham Agasti Yeshwaram Aradhayekam Haram Sachidananda